restoration, still with a really crappy audio. The older videos were with the microphone, and I just don't have it anymore. But we're going to get to this fourth stage of colorizing our photo. So I'm now happy with the state of the retouching. I probably have missed things. I could probably go more in detail, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. So I finished my retouching stages. I finished my restoration, like big flaws stage. I did the color correction. I didn't do the blur, so we'll do that right now. Okay, I don't know how much that changed, but it's not blur specifically, but noise. I did the denoise, and now I'm ready to start adding colors. I've already dragged and dropped in 2 color references. I looked at her, she reminded me of the movie Dreamgirls, so I decided that my color reference was going to be some pictures of Jennifer Hudson. As you can see, people vary a lot from day to day. This might be a matter of makeup, but Jennifer Hudson in both these pictures looks very different. I mean, they're years apart, but in this picture, she seems to have some like red undertones in her skin. In this picture, she has more yellowy undertones. So I am gonna make a choice. I'm gonna make a choice what I'm gonna sample, but I'm gonna pick one or the other. So for this one, I'm gonna go with this one that's like a little bit reddish, and what I am going to do with it is I'm going to make a bunch of layers that are different tones of her skin. So I'm going to start by sampling. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to find a dark spot on her face. So under her chin is probably a good place to look. So I am going to, or even like in the corner here, down here, but under her chin is a great place. So I'm going to click the letter I on my keyboard, and that brings me to the eyedropper. If you forget that shortcut, it's right here. It looks like a little eyedropper. I'm going to pick this color right there, and it brought it up here and down here. So it's my foreground color. Now here, I'm going to add a new layer. I want this layer to be above black and white. And I'm going to press the letter G, or I'm going to go over here and find the bucket, and I'm going to fill the whole layer in with this deep brown color. Okay. I'm going to do another layer. I'm going to look at Jennifer Hudson. I'm going to find a middle color on her skin. So I'm going to do letter I, which brings me to eyedropper. I'm going to pick this one. Well, no, maybe I'm going to go even more middle than that. I'll go with maybe this color in the middle of her chin, maybe this color up here. Something lighter than this, but darker than the lightest spots on her face. So maybe I'll go for, I don't know, I can play around with that a little bit. Maybe that's the one. I'll go something down here. And this layer is selected, so I am going to press G, or the bucket, and I'm going to fill that second layer with that next tone. I'm going to do about 4 of these. Okay, so darkest, darker middle tone. I'm going to do a eyedropper, a lighter middle tone. Maybe now I'll come up here. A little darker than that. There we go. I'm going to do the bucket. I'm going to fill that layer. And then I'm going to add one more. And I'm going to choose a very light tone on her face. So I'm going to do the eyedropper. I'm going to pick something on the tip of her nose. That's usually a pretty light spot of someone's body that isn't one of these white spots. Okay. And I'm going to go to the bucket. I'm going to fill in that layer. So if you see over on my layer panel, I've got dark, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, lightest. Okay. She has a darker complexion. So if I was doing someone who was Caucasian, who was a lighter Asian skin tone, or someone who wanted to be portrayed that way, like Korean people prefer to look like they have pale skin, I would have a very different range of colors. This is not one size fits all. This is very specific to the person that you are restoring. But now I can turn off my color references. They're in a folder here, so I can just turn off the whole folder. And I'm going to start at the bottom. So I'm going to turn off the lightest 3 tones. I'm going to start by turning off all of them because I need to go to retouching and I need to select my subject. I am just going to select the parts of her that need skin tones. I'm going to include her hair because it's something that's going to be brown in the end anyway, and I'm going to add something on top of that afterwards. But it just helps seamlessness because there's things like her part where skin would be showing through and things like that. So I am going to, maybe I'll start with select subject. Okay, there we go. So I am going to include her hair, but I'm not going to include her dress. So we're going to quick select. I'm going to remove this from selection. The pattern is a little hard, so you might need to zoom in a little bit. So I don't want the background. I don't want the background. I don't want her dress. This is going to take a while, so I am going to fast forward through this. Okay, so I've selected her minus the dress, minus the background. Great news, we are only going to have to do this once. But now that we've selected her, I'm going to turn the brownest layer back on. You can see my selection is still visible. I'm going to click that layer and I'm going to make a mask. There we go. If there are any weird sections like this, I can fix them with the paintbrush, oh geez, I want a hard edge. I want a much smaller brush so I can smooth this out with that black paint. There we go. Since we are we're going to duplicate this mask. So we want this to be perfect, and if it looks really good, then we won't have to do any of this work to fix things later. Okay, so just to reiterate, was that a pain? Yes. Was it worth it? Absolutely. All right, and now we are going to create a little bit of a blend mode situation. So I'm going to go into FX, to blending options, and I am going to use this underlying layer situation. I'm going to set this to color, and I am going to only have it color the darkest spots. So I'm going to drag this down, and I'm going to click right in the middle of this white one while I'm holding Option. I'm going to hold Option, click, and then I'm going to drag this up a little bit, drag this down a little bit. See how it colored only the darkest spots? There we go. Okay. Click OK. And then I'm going to take this, the layer mask. I'm going to hold Option. I'm going to drag it up to layer 4. Now I can turn on layer 4. It's already masked. And now we have to do the same thing to this layer. So once again, we're going to go into the layer. We're going to go to FX. We're going to go to blending options. And now we're going to adjust for the next level of color. So we want to make sure that we're not ending up with any gray. So we go kind of just to the edge of the gray, and then split with holding Option, clicking this, and we'll spread this out a little bit. We'll bring this down. And then split it so that we've got some fade of that layer. We're going to change it to color. And you can start to see her face taking shape with this. So if I didn't mention before, this, by splitting this, it fades in and out, which will help with the blending. And the color mode, there are other color modes that will work in a way. Like overlay is going to be darker than color. Here's color. Sorry, color. It says overlay. It's very similar. But overlay sometimes is too dark. Soft light is sometimes too soft. Hard light is sometimes too hard. But color, this is what it's really meant for. You can always go back into these things and adjust them as you go. So if I double click over here, I can say, you know what, maybe the dark isn't going up high enough, and I can blend this up a little bit. So really, you can play around with it. Now that I did that, I'll scooch this up a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the next layer. Once again, I'm going to drag this mask up. So I'm going to hold Option while I drag this up and apply it to layer 5. Now when I turn on layer 5, the mask is on. I'm going to go into this layer, FX, blend options, move up a little higher. I don't want to be past the gray. I want to be up to the gray. I can Option split this, fade down, fade up. And I can switch it to color. So now she's got more color to her face. I should pull this down so it doesn't cover the lightest tones. Well, there's not a lot of super light tones. Pull it down anyway. Okay. And last but not least, once again, we're going to drag this up, holding down Option, apply it to layer 6. We're going to turn that layer on. We're going to go into our blending options. We're gonna pull this way up. We're gonna split it. Option, click. Blend it out. And there's definitely something not quite on the nose here, right? So I'm going to play around with all right. So this is a little bit better. But if you still haven't quite gotten to a point where you like it, sometimes the answer is that you need to adjust the opacity. So you can play around with how opaque the layer is. Also in the blending mode, here we go. You can play around a little bit with the opacity. I also, what I found is that sometimes color ends up being a little light. If you want to boost one of the layers, you can use one of those other blending modes, like overlay, like soft light, like hard light, using one of those other ones to kind of boost the strength of that particular layer. That's darken versus color. Maybe I want to darken for this particular tone. This is color. Maybe I want to go for something different. The order of operations here also makes a difference. So maybe it's a matter of what's on top. So I can play around with this all day. So one thing I'm going to try, the only thing that I don't like about this is some of the places where, like on the nose, it doesn't seem very well blended. So I'm going to go back to my retouching and I'm going to use the blend tool, the blur tool, sorry. And see if this resolves some of the issues that I'm having. Not really, but it was worth a try. I'm going to come back. I'm going to revisit this at the end as I fix up and fine tune. It might have been something about the way that I edited. Or maybe one of the tones of, maybe one of the colors is off. But in any case, we'll move on to other things.